Capitalism's goal is to make slaves of the entire world, and if you don't believe this, it's because the truth of its history has been hidden from you. For example, during the Industrial Revolution, it was very common for people to work 12 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And people would work this much and have barely any money to take care of themselves. People lived in abject poverty and squalor, even forced children to work 12 to 18 hours a week. And the working conditions here were atrocious. Whether it be the heavy machinery that was amputating people on a regular basis, or the chemicals that they are around that were making them sick. And there was no workers' compensation. If you lost an arm on the job, you were just screwed. You didn't have an arm anymore. Children as young as 5 were forced to work in factories, and if they didn't work fast enough, they were regularly whipped. Even worse, corporations would lock the door behind employees when they were in the factory so that they couldn't leave or take breaks, which ultimately led to many losing their life when there was a factory fire. And do you think the corporation paid any consequences for that? No. They did not. And you may say, Cortland, it's not like that now. We don't have slavery anymore. Actually, we have more slavery today than we did 200 years ago. Companies like Nestle have been using slave labor to harvest chocolate for literally decades. And the only reason they said they're going to stop doing that is because of public pressure saying that they didn't want their chocolate to come from slave labor. Spoiler alert, they still have not gotten rid of slave labor. They still have slave labor to this day. You may say, well, that's in other countries. That's not in America. Well, you're actually more of a slave than you think you are. Because tell me, are you able to stop working at any point? What would be the consequences if you stopped working? Homelessness? Unable to feed your family? Unable to afford basic necessities? Unable to afford medicine? In fact, the majority of Americans working a full-time job can't actually afford their basic necessities. So the majority of Americans are working their lives away, the majority of their lives away, and they still can't afford basic necessities? Another way of looking at this is debt slavery. And that debt slavery is basically when the system does everything in its power to give you a mortgage, to give you a car payment, to give you a student loan payment, all so that you cannot stop working because you have those loans to pay off. You may not see yourself as a slave, but the truth is you're not able to stop working because you have all these debts to pay off. And if you ever stop paying those debts, they take everything. If the corporations could pay you nothing, they absolutely would. The only reason the minimum wage has gone up is because the people have forced the corporations to raise them, not because they did it out of the goodness of their heart. The goal of capitalism is to make you work for as long as possible for as little as possible, and if they could get you to do it for free, they absolutely would. And these are just a few examples. I could literally go on for hours of the amount of times the corporations have done everything in their power, even employing the US military to attack Americans to stop them from wanting higher wages. So no, the corporations do not care about you, do not want you to have a better life, and will do everything in their power to make you a slave. Thank you all so much for watching, and I appreciate your face.